Joe Jackson McClure II. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. How you doing?
Hey, I'm feeling excited, ready to talk about some football football and a little basketball. You ready to do it?
I'm ready to do it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, JJ. Let's start out. Big Ten SEC. Uh, Michigan State. I'm sorry, Michigan went to Columbus and showed out.
Indeed, they did.
Tell me more about that game. What does that do for Michigan? What does it do to Ohio State, and what does that do to football in general?
Well, what that does is it makes Ohio State not in control of their destiny. They would need USC to lose, or they would need TCU to lose pretty big. I think Michigan and Georgia are locks. That's what it did for Michigan. It locked them in as a top 4 team. It gave them their first back-to-back win over Ohio State since 2000 and John Cooper's last year. It put Ryan Day squarely on the hot seat in Columbus.
You got to be kidding me.
He's on the hot seat. I've been listening to a lot of sports talk radio in Columbus, and the fans are not happy. In Cleveland and Columbus, they are not happy with
Oh man, that's crazy.
He's 45-5 in 3 years, and he's only lost 2 Big Ten games in his entire career. But unfortunately for him,
well,
those were both to Michigan.
If he's on the hot seat, some people been smoking too much something. I don't know what, but that's neither here nor there. So Michigan is a lock, you say, and Ohio State is no longer in control of their destiny.
They need help.
But if one team lose this Saturday in their play, one of the top 4 teams lose, is Ohio State a lock to be in the football playoffs?
Well, like I said, Georgia and Michigan are like they can lose and it doesn't matter. They will be ahead of Ohio State. Okay. They're not leapfrogging.
All right. So one of the other teams lose.
Yeah, the thing with TCU is TCU. If they lose a close contested game, I don't think that they're going to be penalized for playing an extra game and actually playing in the championship game. But if they get blown out and they look like they don't belong, which is possible. I mean, TCU, they've never been convincing when it comes to the wins.
Their offense has been pretty good.
Yeah, except against Texas. I mean, except for in some spots, I would agree. But they have a dynamic receiver, best receiver in the country, supposed to be drafted top 10. So I think they have a good offense. But I think if they were to lose and get blown out, worse than say Ohio State got blown out by a better team in Michigan, I could see Ohio State leapfrogging them. But if it's like a 1-point game, Ohio State's going to be on the outside looking in. But USC already has a loss. That's the difference between USC and these other teams.
So USC already lost to their opponent earlier this year, correct?
They did. They had a close 1-point loss to Utah.
And now they get to play Utah in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But who's more likely to lose of the 2 teams that need the win between TCU and USC? Which one is more likely, better chance of losing this Saturday?
I would say TCU has a better chance of losing because they lost to Kansas. Well, because when they beat Kansas State didn't have their quarterback.
Okay.
And Utah beat USC by 1 point in Utah. Now it's not going to be in Utah. They're not going to have the elevation as a factor. And also their quarterback, Cam Rising, has been playing very poorly lately.
Okay.
So I don't really see... but he has the talent. Like, he could snap his fingers and, like... He has the talent within him. We saw that last year when Utah almost beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. He has the talent. I believe in their coach, Kyle Willingham. So Utah could easily upset USC.
Okay.
Kansas State could easily upset TCU with a healthy Adrian Martinez. I would be shocked if Purdue beat Michigan. I would be shocked if Georgia lost to LSU.
Okay. We talked about last week's game with Michigan and Ohio State. Mm-hmm. The other big game, SEC, Texas A&M defeated Louisiana State.
Yeah, LSU was in pole position. If they were to beat Georgia, they could have potentially become the first 2-loss team to make it to the college football playoff. Auburn had that same situation with Gus Malzahn a few years back. And just like Auburn, LSU decided to lose to an inferior team.
Indeed they did.
Yeah.
Indeed they did. the games coming up, the 4 games coming up for the 4 big games. And we're not going to talk about the ACC tournament because no one there can make it to the playoff.
Nope.
So the other ones, Georgia and LSU.
Mm-hmm.
I want your prediction, and you've already told me who you think be a hard time to win, but give me a scenario where Georgia could lose to LSU.
They wanted to rest their players. They have nothing to play for. If as long as they don't care about matchups and who they play, which they shouldn't really care about as dominant as they've been. If they have some guys with some bumps and bruises, some nicks, why not give them some rest?
Okay.
Because LSU winning literally would mean nothing to them.
Okay. So who should be the 1 seed right now? Michigan, Georgia.
Michigan has the best win. Georgia has the pedigree. They have the precedent. Like they're the defending champions. I mean, you should have to knock the champion out. Michigan has not knocked the champion out. Michigan could have played UCLA this year. They decided to change that series for UConn.
Really?
Yeah, so they played an incredibly weak out of conference schedule, and UConn actually, shout out to Jim Mora, they're both eligible, but they're still not as good as UCLA.
Why would Michigan have turned down? I'm just curious. I did not know this was the case. Why would they turn down UCLA for UConn?
I don't know. Maybe they were afraid of losing to UCLA.
Wow.
Or maybe they just. I don't know, but I know it was supposed to be UCLA versus Michigan to start this year next, and they decided to change it to UConn.
JJ, I know we're making a huge assumption. I'm going to make a huge. Go ahead.
It just hit me. Maybe they didn't. UCLA would have been a home and home. UConn is not a home. Like they don't. I don't think they go to UConn. I'm pretty sure they don't.
I'm sure they wouldn't either.
So maybe they just decided. Maybe they don't want to have an away game next year.
I'm going to say this. It didn't hurt Michigan this year, but I remember. I believe it was 2018 where they pulled out of a game with Arkansas, and they would have won that game. They ended up playing Notre Dame instead, and they lost that game. And they stuck with Arkansas. They probably would have made the playoff that year. But that goes back a while. Where should we go to now? What discussion pack? Because I could stay on the potential for football forever, but I don't want to do that.
Well, we can talk about.
Can we talk about just really quickly? And I know you and I off the air had talked about this. If there were a 12-team tournament this year, more exciting, less exciting, and why?
I think it would be more exciting. You'd have more people, more fans with skin in the game.
And
so
the Big Ten, SEC. Okay. The last.
I didn't hear
the Big Ten and
about
the SEC. How would that work for them? A 12-team.
They would obviously be the first ones at the table. Penn State is the top 10 program they would be in. Alabama would absolutely be in. Tennessee
Lost that quarterback.
They did lose their quarterback, and I think Tennessee. I've been seeing a lot of Tennessee fans upset because they have, the same record as Alabama and the head-to-head win.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like if people, not some of our older watchers, but not some of our younger watchers, but if you watched basketball in 2000, you remember when Kenyon Martin broke his leg
for Cincinnati.
Yeah, they would have been the number 1 overall seed, and they would have been the favorites to win the championship that year. But they were only a 2 seed, and they
a team from East Lansing won it that year.
That was the last time a Big Ten team won the championship. They should thank Kenyon Martin for breaking his leg. But I think it would be justified to keep Tennessee out.
Before we move on, and you brought the basketball. I'm gonna get the basketball in a minute, but before we do, the Big Ten, SEC. If the Big Ten and the SEC were playing each other in the championship game, football, Georgia and Michigan, they did last year, how would you classify that? That's one. And then my last question regarding football is a possible 12-team scenario we discussed earlier. The Rose Bowl, right, is supposedly the hold up on that. Will there be 12-team playoff next year?
No. I don't think so, but I guess we'll find out.
For anyone who might not know what about the Rose Bowl? What can you talk about exactly what's going on with that?
Just the Rose Bowl wants to have a premier status. They don't want to just be a part of the bowl rotation when it comes to the college football playoff, and college football playoff is kind of giving the ultimatum of get with us or get left behind, and I guess we're gonna have to figure that out.
College football said they could lose over, I think it was over $400 million in revenue if they don't go to a 12-team format next year. And everyone has said the only thing holding them back is the Rose Bowl. The College Football Playoff Committee has supposedly threatened the Rose Bowl that if they don't get on board, they may be left out of some contract negotiation in the future. Who's holding the best hand in this fight?
College football playoff. The Rose Bowl does not matter. C.J. Stroud, when asked, has said he's not sure if he's going to play in the bowl game. Which, if they don't get into the play, I mean, if it's the playoff, he will play. If they don't get into the playoff, then they would be going to the Rose Bowl. So that's the situation that the Rose Bowl finds themselves in. When they're not in the playoff, they're not a prestigious,
But your prediction is that the Rose Bowl will not succumb to the pressure.
Not this year. I think eventually they will, but not. I don't think there will be a 12-team playoff next year.
Well,
the other thing I want to talk about was the two new additions to the head coaching profession in the Big Ten. Jim Leonhard, the interim coach at Wisconsin,
did not
secure the job, and instead Luke Fickell
from Cincinnati,
an AAC program that's joining the Big 12. He's decided that he's going to return to the Big Ten and in the head coaching fashion.
Is that a good move for a good hire for Wisconsin?
It's an unbelievable hire from Wisconsin. They couldn't have made a better hire. I'm surprised they got him.
Okay.
But that's a great indication. That's a great indicator for the Big Ten, actually. Okay. I think the other hire that was also made in the Big Ten West, and it was from a team that has traditionally been more powerful and has had more prestige in history than pretty much everyone in the Big Ten West, and that's Nebraska. And they're on down times right now. We know what happened with Scott Frost, Matt Rhule. A program builder. He built up Temple. He built back Baylor after Art Briles, and that whole situation happened. He's a program builder, and they brought him in to build a program.
So obviously, it's telling me like you think Wisconsin is the better hire, got the better coach.
No, I think Matt Rhule is as good of a coach.
Okay.
I think Wisconsin has the better infrastructure right now. I think Nebraska has a lot of potential in their fan base, in their NIL landscape. They have a lot of people who care. They have a lot of boosters that are on board. But they're they don't know how to recruit, where to recruit, things like that. Like, they used to have to recruit Texas when they were playing, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, TCU. Now that they've left the Big 12,
playing Midwest and playing East, and we'll be playing West Coast team. They're all over the country.
Well, they're gonna have to go back to their mid '90s days when they were out there recruiting LA. USC and UCLA might help that endeavor, as Nebraska is the third most Western team in the Big Ten.
True.
But we'll see. We'll see if they can activate their recruiting again. Because without that, Nebraska isn't a fertile enough area of the country to produce Big Ten level talent.
Okay, JJ, I had asked you about Big Ten, Georgia, and Michigan. I want you to hold off on that because we got plenty of time to discuss that. You got time to talk a little basketball?
Yeah, I got time. I have a little bit of time to talk about my favorite sport. Let's do it.
Okay. The ACC Big Ten Challenge is going on right now. Who's going to win it?
Well, the Big Ten should win it. The ACC is very bad. They have Virginia. Duke is down. We saw what happened with Purdue and Duke. They might not be the same. We've only seen Duke under Coach K. We have never seen them with success.
Point well made.
So who knows what Duke is going to be going forward. North Carolina is, the preseason number one.
Defending champion.
Runner-up. Kansas is the champion.
I'm sorry. That's right.
But they returned 4 out of 5 starters, and they returned like 7 out of 8 their top rotation players. So they're going through some ups and downs. They just lost in 4 overtimes recently. The ACC is very down. Syracuse is atrocious. But I don't know. Virginia beat Michigan by 2 last night.
Late last night. I didn't get to see the end of that game.
Yeah,
Came on too late.
It was at Michigan. But, yeah, I would expect the Big Ten to win that pretty handily. The Big Ten has been a very solid, if unspectacular, conference this year.
Okay, talk about the upper echelon in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, you have Indiana, Illinois, Purdue. Michigan was supposed to be there. Michigan State wasn't supposed to be there, but then they were supposed to be there, and now I guess they're not supposed to be there again. I don't know.
They got a lot of injuries.
They do. Now. Malik Hall's injury, I think, is the biggest one. But, yeah, I mean, I think Indiana's the best team. Indiana or Illinois. No, I'm not sure.
Okay, so you're telling me that the Big Ten is going to win the Big Ten ACC Challenge?
They haven't lost it in the past 8 years.
Who's going to win it next year?
The SEC will win the SEC ACC Challenge.
So that's the point. This is the last year. It's kind of sad to see it go after over 20 years. No more. The Big Ten potentially could pick up the Big 12.
Yeah, they both share Fox as a media rights sponsor.
What's the best conference in your mind, Power 5 conference in basketball this year?
This year?
This year. It's early. It's early.
Depends on how you define best. I'm going to go with the Big 12. I'm going to go with the Big 12 over the SEC, but...
You and I are in agreement. Big 12 is a beast. Don't sleep on Texas. Kansas is always there. Baylor. Texas Tech is decent. But Texas, do not sleep on Texas.
Yeah, Texas is okay. I think they'll make the tournament, but
I
don't think they're going to win or finish in the top. I wouldn't expect them to win the Big 12. I would expect Kansas to again do that.
I got Texas winning the Big 12.
Well,
but that's just me.
I'll take the defending champs, but
I'm just the best basketball prognosticator in the land, and I'm going with Texas. I might be the second best. I'll defer to you. Maybe you're the best, but that's cool. That's cool. Okay, so JJ says, what about the SEC? Who are the upper echelons there? Is Kentucky a pretender? Michigan State put it to them.
Yeah, I mean Kentucky. I don't think they're well coached. I think they have a lot of talent, but I don't think that they have the synthesis of that talent right now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean they just try to out athlete everybody, and that's hard to do in the SEC because the SEC, for whatever shortcomings they might have, they have a lot of athletes.
Who is the top echelon in the SEC?
Tennessee. They destroyed Gonzaga by 20. Tennessee's. I mean, I know that they sustained a loss, but they have some pretty good wins. I think that I believe in Rick Barnes. Obviously, Arkansas hasn't played with their best player yet, so
he played this week for about 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, well, 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think he scored.
Well, they don't have their best player healthy yet. So for me, they're still incomplete. I can't really grade them.
Nick Smith Jr.
Nick Smith Jr.
Some people says he was the #1 recruit out of high school last year. Some people say he's the best college pro potential out there this year who's in college. There are some out there who are not in college. But he's going to have to be really, 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 really good to prove that to me, because I think this year's basketball personnel graph potential is sky high. There are so many players, so many teams. They got some really, 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 really good basketball players. So,
yeah,
if Nick Smith is the best out there, Arkansas is going to go undefeated. Well, from now on, I've already lost one to Creighton.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, JJ, I don't want to keep you here too long. Did I forget something?
No, that's it.
Okay. Come back next time when we go through the playoffs and let you know how things turn out, the football playoff, and give us just our prediction for the big, well, maybe not.
All right. And 10 seconds left. Who dat?
WPS. Woo Pig Suey. If you ain't a Razorback, you ain't chitlin'.